Hey guys, Scott here again with one of my what is style videos slash beer dissection videos. The what is style I'm going to cover today is American Pale Ale. And the beer dissection is the classic Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And before everyone fast forwards through this, one of my pet peeves, which should add to my pet peeve video, is a lot of times, and maybe I've mentioned other videos, is that a lot of times when you have beers that have been around for a while, and Sierra Nevada Pale Ale has been around, I guess, since 1981-ish, 82, and it's readily available in the store. Sometimes people push it to the side because, the craft beer industry, is always adapting every year basically, and there's always new hop varietals that come out. So sometimes these classic beers get kind of pushed to the side. But a lot of people that I follow that are beer enthusiasts, experts in beer, almost master cicerones, really appreciate this style American Pale Ale. So I'll get to the beer in just a second. So what is American Pale Ale? Starting with the history, I do have videos out there. I'm not going to rehash the entire history of German immigration, the 1830s and 50s, and how we went from German lager beers and 2-row, 6-row malt, and then we fast forwarded to the 1900s, and we had pre-prohibition American lagers and things like that. Well, fast forwarding into the late 1970s, the craft beer industry hadn't boomed yet. And actually, home brewing was not legal at that point until about 1978, 79, when Congress and Jimmy Carter signed the bill to allow home brewing. And that's kind of where everything kind of got sparked off. And one of the first styles, somewhere in that late 1970 range, was the American Pale Ale. And because there wasn't a lot of textbooks at the time in the United States on brewing, what did all the homebrewers have to use? They had to use Old English or probably even Irish textbooks. And the number one beer that was popular at that time were English bitters. Nowadays, with the Brewing Judge Certification Program, we know these bitters as ordinary, best, and strong bitters. And really, the big difference is they're hopped a little bit more as you go from ordinary to best to strong. So the international bitterness units are a little bit higher, as well as the alcoholic strength goes up a little bit. So in those late 1970s, the pale ale took off from there. One other thing I should mention about the English bitters is that with the strong bitter, nowadays, most of them are cask conditioned. When they bottle that strong bitter, they classify it or call it more of a pale ale. So we get some of the imports coming over that you may see in your local beer store. So our home brewers, started using the American Pale Ale. Now, Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale, I think it was 1981, 82. People generally believe that Anchor Liberty was one of the first ones, but they could argue and tug and war back and forth on that. But one of the things that we're familiar with these early pale ales, the American Pale Ale, is the use of Pacific Northwest hops, probably from the Willamette Valley in Oregon and the Yakima Valley in Washington. And the classic thing with Pacific Northwest hops, which is like Centennial, Cascade, which Sierra Nevada uses exclusively Cascade in this beer. They have that piney, sometimes resiny, citrus type of aroma and flavor to them. And when they did start brewing them in 1980, it was amazing is that with Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which again, I'm going to crack this open in a second, this was considered a very hoppy beer. Very bitter, very hoppy. Nowadays, with the advancement of going from American Pale Ale to American IPA or IPA, American IPA, double IPA, those become a lot more from moderate to low bitterness to now pronounced assertive, highly assertive bitterness. And that's really the big difference between a beer like American Pale Ale, then you go to IPA, it's kind of like a pyramid. You have IPA, you have American IPA, which is very similar to regular IPA, depending on what hops are being used. Then you've got double IPA, And really the big difference is the amount of hops used, the bitterness level, as well as the alcohol percentage. Now, again, one thing I won't dive too much into is we have New England IPA, which you've watched more than one or two of my videos. When I review some IPAs, I talk about how New England IPA, the bitterness is actually very low, even though there's a lot of hop flavor and aroma in those styles. So again, what we expect with these beers is obviously, anywhere from moderate to assertive bitterness. The alcohol percentage, is always going to be kind of sitting between, 5 to 6%. And again, depending on if then it becomes an IPA or double IPA, you can get up as high as 7.5 or 10% alcohol percentage. So again, what we have now today, like I said, is Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. So we're going to kind of do a dissection of this right now. And it says it's from, Chico, California. It is one of the classic ones, like I said, early 1980s. I just want to see if there's any other history I wanted to go over. We discussed ordinary best and strong bitters. I said Anchor Liberty, and the different style of hops that we have laying around. So anyway, let's crack this bad boy open. Like I do with most of my IPAs, I'm either going to have my tulip glass or my, kind of modified Spiegelau glass. It's not exactly Spiegelau, but it has a little bit of shape to that, again, to accentuate some of the hop aroma. So again, classic. Now, I obviously have had this before, like many of you. Let me see, it was packaged on August of 22, so we are getting a little bit older here. This came in a 12-pack, which many times locally here, that's where it's coming that way. So again, a little history on American Pale Ale, as well as the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Okay, so let's crack this bad boy open. Okay. Like I said, this beer kind of started it all. And like I said, in the early days, this was like, people cringed because you were going from American lagers to this beer. And, it was very hoppy, very bitter. And again, compared to some of the new ones that we have going on today, it's no longer like that anymore. So what do we have here on our beer dissection? So we have a nice pronounced head. Again, a lot of that foam is my error. I pour very aggressively these days. Some shoulder issues on the other side. But you can see, you got a nice gold, light amber color, crystal clear. Excuse my, nucleation sites on my glass. Maybe my glass is clean, maybe not quote unquote beer clean. So we got a few clinging to the side of the glass. But again, nice pronounced head. Let me take a whiff of the aroma here. Yeah, so, you definitely have classic American pale ales. Citrus, grapefruit. If we were in England here with some of the bitters, we'd be expecting a little more herbal, earthy, woodsy, maybe from East Kent Golding hops. But this is using exclusively Cascade hops. So you really want to understand what a Cascade hop aroma, flavor, definitely get Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. But you can kind of get a cross section of some of the other hop varietals out there in the Pacific Northwest. But grapefruit, it's kind of like spruce tips type of piney aroma. You get a little bit of grapefruit. That's the type of citrus you're getting here, which is pretty classic. And again, I've had this before. I don't think I've ever really analyzed it as well as I'm doing right now. You get kind of that, toasty, light toasty bread crust malt profile, and they're probably using some crystal malt as well as pale two-row malt in this to kind of give the color, as well as a little bit of that sweetness that caramel malt or crystal malt will give you. But very nice. I mean, this is my this is a beer I'm not going to save it in my house 24 hours a day, but like if I just want beer that tastes good, goes with most food, pretty economical, I don't have to think about or analyze it, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is one of my standbys. Okay, so definitely very nice. Okay, so let's cheers. Let's take a swig of this. Yeah. Just letting the bitterness hit. You definitely get that pronounced bitterness. Similar to the aroma, you're getting that grapefruit citrus. So if you like that and you don't want something so overly powered. That's the good thing about this beer too, is that unlike some of the New England IPAs or hazies or even some of the other American IPAs, they just blow you away with the hops, which at times you want, but like sometimes I can't drink too many of those at one point. It's just too over the top. This has enough bitterness and pleasant citrus aroma that you can have one or two or three responsibly and not be just kind of over consumed with the hop flavor and aroma. But you have that light sweetness to the malt from the caramel crystal malt that's being used. Looks like kind of 40 Lovibond. I'm not quite sure which one they use, but you definitely have nice balance with the malt. It's not all hops. So that's another reason why this beer has been very popular for 30, 40 years. There's really no astringency. You do have that, you do have that pronounced bitterness from the hops, but it's not really astringent. Kind of medium mouth feel, pretty well carbonated. You're not going to get any alcoholic warmth. I think this comes in at 5.6% alcohol, 38 IBUs. So again, you're sitting around the bitterness of around a typical German Pilsner. So something like this will definitely, cut through. I think, like I said, this is like an everyday beer. I mean, you can go through some creamy dishes, some pork dishes, chicken, you name it. Even pizza, ribs. And you can, at 5.6%, which nowadays is sessionable, with these 9%, some of these beers I've reviewed on this channel sitting at 10%, that you can have like one, you got to call it quits for a while. Let me see if there's any other history on this, but like I said, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, if you haven't had it in a while, I recommend revisiting it a little bit. If you've never had it before and you kind of want a little bit of an intro into some of the pale ales, IPAs, double IPAs without getting blown away, I think Sierra Nevada is one to kind of taste. Just a simple hopped beer with nice balance with the malt. It's not weighed one side or the other. So anyway, again, guys, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. All right, I'll probably have a picture, if not already, over my shoulder of the one we're drinking today. Definitely something to check out. I really enjoy this. Again, remember, this is kind of that base pale ale American IPA, and then we kind of go up bitterness and alcoholic strength when you go from American pale ale to IPA to double IPA to triple IPA and things like that. But great everyday drinking beer. And remember, it's based upon the English bitters, especially strong bitter, which when bottled, remember, instead of being cask conditioned, they usually call it a pale ale. I learned that through some of the history that I was reading about. So anyway, guys, a little bit of a what is style American Pale Ale and our beer dissection with the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Anyway, till next time, guys, have a great day. Take care.